In the studio of The Tonight Show, an electric atmosphere reigned. The spotlight bathed the stage in a golden glow, and the murmur of the audience grew, like the anticipation of a storm. Tonight's guest was Mel Gibson, a Hollywood legend, director, and actor whose career spanned decades of masterpieces and controversies. His new film, Dangerous Flight, was already earning critical acclaim, and the audience eagerly awaited the charismatic star's appearance. But behind the scenes, tension simmered. Gibson's team had insisted on clear boundaries for the interview, no personal or offensive topics. It was supposed to be about the movie, about art. Yet Jimmy Kimmel, the host with a sharp tongue and an even sharper gaze, seemed overly confident, his energy forced, his smile faintly cynical. Mel Gibson strode onto the stage to thunderous applause. His presence exuded confidence. A gray suit fit him perfectly, his beard lent a stern edge, and his smile was warm, though his eyes betrayed a hint of wariness. He greeted the crowd with a casual wave, sat in the chair, and leaned back relaxedly, as if ready for a light conversation. But in the control room, pulses raced. Camera operators nervously checked their shots, and producers exchanged quick glances. Something about Kimmel's demeanor was unsettling. He cast a fleeting look at his notes, and his lips curled into a barely perceptible smile, too sharp to be innocent. "Mel, welcome to the show," Kimmel began, his voice smooth but laced with a playful provocation. "Dangerous Flight is incredible. Tell us, how do you keep everyone on the edge of their seats?" Gibson smiled, his response easy but precise. He spoke about the filming process, the challenges of crafting a gripping thriller, and his love for stories that provoke thought. The audience listened, rapt, while Kimmel nodded, but his eyes glinted as if biding his time for a strike. "By the way," Kimmel suddenly shifted his tone, leaning closer to his guest, "I noticed your nice cross." He pointed to the chain barely visible under Gibson's shirt collar. "Could you take it off? Out of respect for my show, you know." Silence fell. The audience froze, unsure if it was a joke. In the control room, a producer muttered a curse under their breath, and a camera operator swung the lens toward Gibson. Mel slowly narrowed his eyes, his smile vanishing, though he maintained his composure. His fingers instinctively touched the cross, a symbol of his faith worn his entire life. "Jimmy," he began, his voice low but firm, "this cross is part of me. I don't take it off for anyone, and honestly, I don't see why it matters to your show." The audience let out a nervous chuckle, sensing the tension. Kimmel leaned back, raising his eyebrows as if surprised by the reaction. "Oh, come on, Mel, it's just a show," he said, but his tone grew sharper. "I just thought we're all equal here without, religious statements." Gibson's jaw tightened. His gaze turned cold, but he still held himself in check. The studio fell quiet, save for a faint whisper rippling through the crowd. In the control room, panic escalated. A producer whispered into their headset, demanding a cut to commercial. But Kimmel, as if oblivious to the tension, pressed on. All right, I'm sorry, Gibson," he said, but his voice dripped with insincerity. "But, take off that cross, not for the show, but out of respect for me." He said it with a slight smile, but his eyes betrayed provocation. The audience gasped. Gibson froze, his fingers gripping the armrests of his chair. His face darkened, and his eyes flared with anger. He leaned forward, his voice quiet but piercing, like steel. "Respect, Jimmy?" he repeated, each word heavy as stone. "You're asking me to renounce my faith for your respect? I'm here to talk about my film, my work, and you're turning my soul into a circus. That's what you call respect?" The studio erupted in whispers and exclamations. The audience was stunned. Some clapped, others exchanged confused glances. In the control room, a producer shouted into their headset, "Cut it! Commercial!" Camera operators frantically tried to keep both men in frame, but the lenses trembled with attention. Kimmel, for the first time that evening, looked slightly rattled but quickly hid it behind his signature smirk. "Mel, come on, it's just—" he started, but Gibson cut him off. "No, Jimmy, this isn't just. You crossed a line." His voice quivered with barely contained fury, and he rose from his chair as if ready to walk away. The audience held its breath, waiting for what would happen next. The tension in the studio was unbearable. everything hung by a thread, and the spotlight seemed to burn brighter, exposing every gesture, every emotion. What would Kimmel say? Would Gibson stop? Would it all explode right now? Mel, come on, sit down, Kimmel said, trying to regain control, but his voice betrayed a slight tremor. If you don't want to take off the cross, maybe you don't belong on my show at all? He threw it out defiantly, raising an eyebrow, and added, "Take off the cross or get out." The audience gasped, shocked by his audacity. Someone shouted, "Shame!" while others whispered, and a few people in the back rows stood, unable to believe their ears. In the control room, a producer clutched their head, muttering, "This is the end. We're done." The camera on Gibson trembled in the operator's hands, but his face remained center frame, stern, unyielding, with a spark of pain in his eyes. Mel exhaled slowly, his fingers gripping the armrest so tightly his knuckles whitened. He didn't sit. Instead, he straightened, his shoulders squared, and he fixed Kimmel with a look that sent chills down the spine. The studio fell silent, bracing for an explosion. But instead of shouting, Gibson spoke, his voice quiet but piercing, like a sword slicing through the hush. "Jimmy," he began, each word falling like a hammer, "you think you can sit there, in your chair, and humiliate people for ratings? You think you can demand I renounce my faith, my soul, for your show?" He paused, scanning the audience, a spark igniting in his eyes. "I was in front of cameras when you were still learning to crack jokes in school. I made films that made people cry, laugh, think. I fought for every role, every frame. And you dare tell me I'm not worthy to sit here because I wear a cross?" The audience erupted in applause. Someone shouted, "Bravo, Mel!" Kimmel tried to interject, but his voice drowned in the clamor. He gave a nervous smile, glancing at his notes, but Gibson gave him no quarter. "You want to talk about respect?" Mel continued, his voice gaining strength. "Respect is when you acknowledge a person's work, their journey, their values. Respect is when you don't force someone to abandon what they believe in for your ego. You don't respect me, Jimmy. You don't respect this audience. You respect only your ratings and your pride." The studio exploded in applause again, louder this time. People rose from their seats, clapping, some shouting words of support. In the control room, a producer yelled, "Cut it! This is a disaster." But the operators, as if mesmerized, kept their cameras on Gibson, his words flowing like a river sweeping everything in its path. "I wore this cross when I filmed Braveheart," Mel said, touching the chain. "I wore it when I won an Oscar for The Passion of the Christ. I wore it when I fell and rose again. And you, Jimmy, with your cheap jokes, have no right to tell me to take it off. You have no right to tell me who I should be." Kimmel, his face now pale, tried to break in. "Mel, it's just a show. No need to—" "No, Jimmy," Gibson interrupted sharply, his voice louder but still dignified. "This isn't just a show. This is life. This is principle. This is what I stand for. And if you think you can humiliate people, their faith, their legacy for a few laughs, you're worse than I thought." He turned to the audience, his eyes blazing with passion. "You deserve better than this. You deserve respect. You deserve truth." The audience erupted in a standing ovation. People clapped, some wiping tears. On social media, a storm was already brewing. Hashtags number Team Mel and number Kimmel. Exposed were trending, and clips of Gibson's speech spread across X at breakneck speed. In the control room, producers stopped shouting. They sat in stunned silence, realizing this wasn't just a scandal, but a moment that would go down in history. Gibson turned back to Kimmel, his gaze calm but resolute. "I'm done, Jimmy," he said quietly, his words ringing like a verdict. He turned, adjusted his jacket, and walked off the stage without looking back. The audience sent him off with applause, and someone shouted, "We're with you, Mel." Kimmel was left alone on stage, his smile pitiful. He tried to joke. "Well, that was interesting, right?" But the audience responded with silence, and someone even booed. In the control room, a producer was already on the phone with executives, muttering about crisis and firing. The cameras cut off, but the storm was just beginning. The next day, the world buzzed with the events of The Tonight Show. Social media exploded. X was flooded with memes, clips, and angry posts. The hashtag #TeamMel became the global #1 trend, and Gibson's speech racked up tens of millions of views in hours. Fans hailed him as a hero who stood up for his dignity, faith, and principles. Film critics and industry peers publicly backed Mel. Keanu Reeves posted on X, "Respect to Mel for his courage. This is what we need." Even those who weren't Gibson fans acknowledged he emerged from the conflict with dignity. Dangerous Flight received an unexpected boost. Premiere tickets sold out, and the trailer's ratings skyrocketed. Gibson, who rarely commented publicly, posted a brief message on X. "Thank you for your support. I stand for truth and will keep doing so." The post garnered millions of likes and reposts. For Kimmel, however, a nightmare began. His ratings plummeted to a record low, and advertisers started pulling contracts. Hashtags #Kimmel exposed and #cancel. Kimmel appeared on X with users accusing him of cynicism and disrespect. Comedian Dave Chappelle posted, "Jimmy, if you want a joke, joke about yourself, not someone else's soul." Several guests publicly refused to appear on his show, and a petition for his firing gathered hundreds of thousands of signatures. A week later, Kimmel posted an apology on X, but it was seen as too late and insincere. "I didn't mean to offend anyone," he wrote, but users responded with memes quoting his own words. "Take it off or get out." His show lost a third of its audience, and network executives began discussing replacing the host. Mel Gibson, by contrast, became a symbol of dignity and resilience. His speech sparked discussions about respect, faith, and morality in media. In a few interviews after the scandal, he spoke calmly but firmly. "I didn't seek conflict. I just defended what I believe in." His already legendary legacy gained new life, and his name became synonymous with integrity. In the Tonight Show studio, the spotlights had long gone dark, but the echoes of that night reverberated worldwide. Mel Gibson left the stage a victor, leaving behind not just applause but a truth that resonated in the hearts.